and have been for many, many years. I have no interest in the matter whatsoever. I don't hold a candle for Fremantle Markets or for GTL or for anybody else. I just believe that the way this matter has been handled by the council, not just this time but over many years, has been incompetent. I think they've been bamboozled. They've been bamboozled by the current tenants each time something has come up, and they've been scared and frightened to do anything because of issues such as the ones that were being discussed a few minutes ago about work that needs to be done on the premises. Now, it's the business plan, what really got me riled up and made me decide that I was going to become active in it was when I read the business plan, which to me doesn't deserve the name of business plan, and I'm a private equity investor now. That's what I do. I run my own private investments, and I was also doing that on behalf of companies when I was in Hong Kong. A business plan like that would have come across my desk would have been thrown out. It's just absurd. It's nothing like a business plan that needs the name. So, but in that business plan, just to take this point about work that needs to be done on the markets, tenants need to do tenant work as well as landlords needing to do landlord work. Now, John has made the point, validly, given his position on this issue, that the council hasn't upheld its part of the bargain in terms of doing landlord work. I accept that. I think that's right. And that just goes to add to my view about the way in which the Fremantle City Council is run, or has been run over this last period of time. But there are also tenant work that needs to be done. And tenant work where the tenants have, in this case, subtenants who are doing things like cooking or making coffee or using electricity in close proximity to water or gas in close proximity to people. Those, normally speaking, would be tenant works, or certainly would be the obligation of the tenant if they had instituted. For example, if you have a storage, self-storage business, you as tenant have to make sure that people don't put things into those self-storage units that are flammable, that can explode and kill people. That's the tenant's responsibility. That is not what is happening at the moment in the Fremantle Markets, and the compensating safety measures that could be taken to make that safe have not been taken. Now, it's all very well for the leaseholder to say, well, that we don't own the markets. They effectively do own them. They've been there 40 years and they're trying to be there for 64 years. But it's a community asset, and it's a community asset that should be run properly. Now, I must say, I don't care immediately who, as between Fremantle Markets or GTL, win any particular tender if one were to be held. I'm attracted to the idea of the council itself, as happens in Melbourne and Adelaide and various other places, running the markets itself. And in fact, the recent Local Government Act changes, which, as you probably know, made a lot of changes to the Local Government Act, gave councils the power to set up what are effectively non-profit subsidiaries which can run businesses that council feels need to be run, whether it's in waste disposal or green verges or whatever it happens to be. It's certainly possible for the council to shield itself from liability and obligation by creating such an entity under the new Act or the amended Act, and running the markets by itself. And instead of the 55 million of expenditure that apparently is happening at the moment, they could, that's not all profit, that's turnover. But I'm told that the gross revenue is in the order of 3.5 million to the Fremantle Markets Proprietary Limited. That money could go to the Fremantle City Council, less of course the costs. So I think that's a third option. But the worst of all possible option is this so-called business plan. And on this question of the lack of safety of the markets, and more I speak to people about it and more people come up and talk to me about it, the more people raise the concerns, which I hear actually coming from Natasha as well, that there are urgent works needing to be done to make the market safe. Who takes the liability for that? It's not just a question of the human cost if something goes wrong, if things explode or fire takes place or the markets are destroyed. There's also the legal liability. Again, as a landlord, as someone who represented landlords for many, many years, tenants are always required to ensure the place of operation themselves. Of course, there's property insurance, which the landlord is responsible for, but in terms of anything that happens during the course of the tenancy, that's required to be done by the tenancy, and a good landlord would ensure that a tenant had done that. Now, I don't know, honestly speaking, because there's absolutely no transparency about this. I don't know whether or not the Fremantle City Council has insisted that FMPL make sure that its insurance, insurance isn't going to bring people back to life. But at the very least, from the point of view of legal liability, whether that rests with whether that's going to come back on the ratepayer. Because if it is true that the Fremantle Markets is operating unsafely, then it should be shut down tomorrow before someone gets killed. So that's really where I'm coming from. I believe that the answer to this is a tender. It may be that Fremantle Markets will win. It may be that GTL will win. Maybe a third party will come out of the woodwork and they will put forward a proposal. Or it may be that none of the proposals that come from tender are satisfactory, and then we can take a look at this alternative that's just been addressed here tonight by Warren and see whether that works. And the council now has the power to do that if it wants to, although given the way the council runs other things, I'm not sure I'd be terribly happy about them running the market. But in principle, it's a good idea. So that's where I'm coming from. As I say, I have no skin in the game, except that I'm a ratepayer. I pay higher rates here in my properties here than I do in elsewhere in the Perth city area, because the Fremantle City Council has very, very high rates. So I'm certainly interested from that perspective. But apart from that, what I want is competent, good governance in Fremantle. Thanks very much.